Welcome to the Gray Area. The Gray Area Media. We've obligated ourselves to be the voice for all communities, speaking on topics that include community, religion, education, politics, technology, sports, health, and wellness. The Gray Area Media is a platform created by longtime friends for the sole purpose of providing our communities with the ability to voice current, past, and modern-day issues. The Gray Area, in its naming significance, solely speaks to the area in which people shy away from speaking because of media-based constraints or contractual-based obligations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't do that here. So please, stay tuned in. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook so that you can follow our live feed. And not only that, please add us on Twitter and Instagram at The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you. Hello, Facebook. This is The Gray Area, and we are happy that you are here with us tonight. It's your boy, Ray E.
This is your boy, P. Wills. What's happening?
We have Alicia Martin.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
See, I didn't use your government that time. I just said
right.
Ebony.
I mean, that's still a government. I mean, that's half of it.
Right.
A third of it, half of it. You got a middle name?
They don't know your last
What
name.
is your middle
I
name?
have two middle names, actually.
Okay, so that's a quarter of your government then. Ebony.
Right, there you
Gotcha.
go.
I call you EB.
That's cool.
EB.
EB. Ebony.
Here you go. We are speaking on a very, very important topic tonight. Silent No More is your organization, and it focuses on teen abuse, whether dating when they're young. That's something that you went through yourself.
I more so went through the domestic violence.
Domestic violence.
Correct.
Okay. Preventative measures on, eliminating or shortening the risk of that by letting people know more about it. So tell us a little bit more about Silent No More and how you got started with the organization.
All right. Well, I will start with how I got started with it first.
Okay.
Me being in a domestic violence relationship for 12 years, going through that domestic violence and then seeing how it affected my children,
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that I incorporated that into the communities and into the world. So that's how Silent No More came about. Through those 12 years, I've had surgery to my eye, and I have plates currently in my eye.
Oh, wow.
A gun placed to my head and told that if I leave, I would be killed,
Wow.
as well as chased down Arlington Avenue with a shotgun hanging out
Wow.
the window at a high-speed chase from him.
man.
So it's not more so just an organization, but it is
Right.
a passion and a purpose to it to bring change into our communities.
Right. Do you feel like that you not understanding what that is at a young age, that you've somehow got involved with that, and that is what's fueling the foundation Silent No More? You feel like if you were more aware as a teenager on what abuse is, then you would be able to prevent some of that?
Being aware at a teenager, because I wasn't so much as a teenager, I was more so of a young adult. I was 21 when I stepped into it.
Okay.
However, as a teen and as a young child, I did witness it and I did see it. However, I was not able to identify it as domestic violence. It was just more so as a man hitting a woman. However, I seen that woman still went back and forgave him. So that was something that was displayed. So it wasn't he was wrong. It was just more so it was forgiven.
Right.
Well, if the kids are aware and educated on the unhealthiness of a domestic violence or
Right.
teen dating abuse, then they would know the steps and have a voice
Right.
in reference to that's how Silent No More came about. It's just not being silent about it and having that voice and using that voice.
Wow.
And recognizing domestic abuse, it seems like there's so many different, I don't want to say strands of domestic abuse, but it seems like it's not easily identifiable if you don't have that I guess the normal physical violence,
Yes.
right? Because I even read that there's a such thing as
Spiritual.
Sexual.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Spiritual, not spiritual abuse.
The spiritual abuse.
Wow.
Yeah, there is
There is
spiritual
spiritual
abuse.
abuse.
Wow.
It's unfortunate, but you know, some facilities,
Oh, I
you know,
got you.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see
They-
what you're saying.
They preach a
Okay.
message that, you know,
Yeah.
is in your pockets rather than your brain.
Which I mean, in
Absolutely.
relationships, you can still have
Or
spiritual
even if
abuse
it's,
too.
if it's
Yeah.
not
Right.
the facilities, it's
Yeah.
the people being a wife, or when it comes to being just a girlfriend, they definitely can hold that against you.
And Alicia, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Alicia, okay. You know, at a young age.
Not really, but now that I know more about it,
You are, you know, older and more aware, you can now pinpoint and say that, yeah, that was abuse.
yes, like from, yeah.
So,
How does that like make you feel?
right.
I truly don't know.
No, I mean, I would say this, as a young person, I witnessed some things, you know, with that I didn't identify as well until I was older. And I can't say that, you know, the people that you encounter as a young person, you don't necessarily look at anybody as evil. You know, depending on your upbringing, you may look at it as everybody's cool. And if somebody get into something, then that was just a brief moment of it. And then you become desensitized, you know, at a young age by seeing it so often. You know, so did you become desensitized to it to where it seemed like it was something normal
Yes.
as a
was
young
gonna be my
person? So you
question.
thought that was regular life.
Yes, because as I learned more about it, I noticed that I was doing it to other people as I got in relationships and stuff like that.
Wow.
Wow. So that's what happens.
I mean, in what aspect were
What you
you?
mean?
I mean, like how were you doing that to other people?
Like, just like bossing them around, telling them to do this and do that, and then like give me
Okay.
some money, or like, can I get some money, and never giving money back to them.
Oh
stuff
wow.
like that.
Okay, it's interesting.
Which
Okay.
is one of the symptoms that you have to watch out for when it comes to young children,
Right.
and the teen dating abuse, or even the teen friendships,
Right.
is that bullying or being bullied aspect comes in from just the witnessing of domestic
Right.
violence in the home.
Right. Wow. Wow. I mean, and that's, you know, it's resilient of you to sit here, you know what I'm saying, and speak with us about this, because it really is a sensitive topic, you know, and then for you to like self-identify and say, yeah, you know, I used to do that and I didn't even know I was really doing that. That's a big deal. And I'm glad that you're here, and, you know, for you to be a part of your mom's organization and helping her bring more awareness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Definitely.
awesome, because oftentimes, like, again, teenagers live in a different world. You know, and we always speak about this sometimes, you know, kids from 8 to 12 years old, they really, within that time frame, they gather different information than us. We look at it as, oh, they talking, they walking, they can say when they hungry, they say when they want to go play, but we take out the emotional aspect of it.
Correct.
We don't realize that they could be going and battling through different things as well.
Yes.
And now they're going to school and dealing with peer pressure and other kids and all these different things. So I think that, you know, between 8 and 12 is really where we got to start paying attention to those kind of things, because that's where they take those 4 years and they decide what they're going to be as a teenager. And that, you know, that could be bullying or, you know, whatever they decide to do. But, you know, usually within that 4 years, they can identify. So you're saying that, you know, some things to watch for are kids that are being bossy or telling people what to do, you know, cursive language. This is another problem for me, why people think it's cute that kids curse and do all these things at a young age.
Right.
Because that often evolves into this kid, you know, becoming something that they can't control later on. It's
Yep.
cute when they're young until they get to an age where they start cursing you and everybody else out. Now it's a problem.
Which is verbal abuse.
Yeah, that's
And it
verbal
falls-
abuse.
And it falls
Yeah.
back to that example that's
Yeah.
put in front of them.
Right.
His mommy at home cussing, or
Yeah.
his daddy at home cussing every day. And then,
Right.
it goes back to that, do as I say, not as I do. Where you're
Right.
telling them not to cuss, but however
But
you're
you cursing
doing
up a
it,
storm.
so how
Yeah,
are
you
the
know,
good
your
example?
your
right.
example is terrible.
Right. You know, and hey, you know, you may encounter situations as an adult where you know, you're going to curse every now and then, you know. I know some strong Christians that, you know, depending on the situation, whoever cut them off, you know, it might slip. You know, it don't mean nothing by it. But, you know, if you repetitively and think it's cute that your kids cuss and do all these different things that adults are supposed to do, that's a problem. It needs to be checked, you know. And we all should be accountable for holding them accountable for that. If you sitting in a room and your friend or a family member got some kid that's cursing and saying all these F you this and F you that, and y'all laugh and everybody think it's cute, that's a
Right.
problem.
Very much.
And it shows that that's what's kind of happening in the world today, is that's acceptable. You know what I'm saying?
House the youth, shall I say,
Okay.
as well as churches, schools, and again, any organization that house the youth. And then we equip and we bring awareness to those kids or those teens that are in that organization on domestic violence in the home and teen dating abuse. So we educate them, whether it's through the PowerPoint that we show them that breaks down each actual abuse, and then we identify it at their level. So that way, once we're done, they should be able to know the awareness of it. They should be able to identify it
Right.
if it's in front of them, and they should be able to know who to be able to use their voice to. So
Right.
that's those main techniques that we equip them with, and then we also hold workshops, and that workshop is called In Their Shoes. So in that
Okay.
workshop, we allow them to take off their shoes, and we actually get in their shoes. So we want to
wow.
know exactly where they are standing, and then we redirect that path that they're
That's
on,
powerful.
instead of just coming in and saying this is how it should
That's
be.
awesome.
We want to meet them at their level and then redirect them at their level, just so that way we can get exactly where they are, and then they know the path, at least the direction that they should be taking, and have a choice with it when
Right.
they do come into encounter with teen dating abuse, whether it is in the home or it's with them. When they go over to their friend's house, they see it at their friend's house, which is something that she encountered. Well,
Right.
if she wasn't equipped with it and didn't have that voice, then mommy wouldn't have known that that was going on.
Right.
And then for her to know exactly what to do from there, it would
Right.
have just been held on. And that goes back to the teen dating abuse as well. Most friends don't tell
Right.
that their friend is being
Right.
abused in the teen relationship, because that's their chance of losing a friend. They don't know how that parent is going to react and
Right.
if it's going to shut down.
Especially
these
young
things.
women, they respond differently to that. It kind of shut down and it
Definitely.
becomes something else. You know, guys, kids, we can kind of get over that, in some instances, but young women respond completely different.
It's an emotional attachment
Right.
to it, more
Right.
so than just that. More so than just the attachment, they become emotionally attached to it as well, which is harder to. Attachment that even victims of domestic violence have. They can leave in their head.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I like to tap on to, even with just women, that even though you're physically out of it, most of them are stuck in self, and know that you have to remove this from your head and from your mind in order to be completely free.
Right.
Is a big thing.
How do you connect with, let's say you encounter someone that comes to you that's been abused, they come to you, what do you do? What's the process? How do you start to get them to realize their worth and get them on a different path? Because if they came to you, there's something going on, or I can't say it's always something going on. Some people may just want information or want to prevent that. But if you get someone who is dealing with this directly, what do you do? What's the process?
Well, even though I am a victim advocate of it, there are people out here that are 100% trained
Okay.
just for that job. So one thing I do is make sure that they are safe. I
Okay.
make sure that their life isn't in danger. And then I be that ear just so that way I can hear exactly what their needs are. And then because we are, Silent No More is a resource bank as well, so we're attached to those sister companies, then I directly align them with the resources that they may need, whether it's counseling, shelter,
That's awesome.
services, food, or whatever it may be for them. But that's the main piece with domestic violence is an ear. With no judgment.
Right.
And that's what they're looking for. And because I was already in it, then they
Right.
know they won't get that from me. But that just making sure that they're safe and then aligning them exactly to where they want to go
Right.
is the thing. Because I'm no therapist, I'm no counselor. So I want to make sure that, and no lawyer at all to put them. So I want to make sure that they are directed, the women are directed to the services that they truly need for that, and that they are taken care of.
And that's
That's
good
good.
that you do that, because
Yeah.
some people will try to be the be all and end all and
No,
even cause any
no.
more damage than what they're already
Yes.
going
Yeah.
through, because they're trying to be that therapist and it's good to recognize that, everybody, you may have had that experience, and everybody's experience is different. And you have that wherewithal to know, I'm going to point you to somebody that can help you,
Yes.
because number one, like I said, it can cause even more damage. And then also, that could, I mean, from an organization standpoint, you know, that can also hurt your organization.
Definitely,
You know, you're giving legal
definitely.
advice, you're doing all these
Right.
things, and that really doesn't help anybody in the long run. So I think that's
true.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's smart.
There's in the world today. There's, I mean, so many different things are sensitive to teenagers. I mean, this is the era of like anything can affect them.
Yeah.
The suicide rates are up amongst
man.
teenagers.
Yes.
There was an instant of a woman, some teenagers, a woman who thought it was okay to get her boyfriend to kill himself because that's
Yes.
what he wanted. Like, that shouldn't be okay, you know. And I mean, I think she's going through a jail process right now. Got arrested and everything, but you know, being charged with manslaughter or something, assisting or something. But she was basically texting him saying, "Hey, you know, when is it
Yeah.
done yet?
I
You
read
know,
it, right.
go ahead and do it." And this is the problem: is kids are becoming desensitized to what real help is,
That
and they
emotional
can't decipher
detachment.
what's wrong with them. If something's wrong with them, and they just think that the easy way out is the easy way to check out.
Right.
You know, so you got kids that go to school and they deal with bullying and domestic violence and all these different things, and the first thing they want to do is pick up a gun or do something to get themselves up out of here. That's a huge problem. What do you think? You know, everybody could chime in on this. What do you think is helping that? Why are kids feeling like this today?
I believe that because so much is on their shoulder. When we were growing up, all we had was who we seen at school. When we left school, and we were able to miss them until
Right.
summer was over and come back.
Right.
Where with them, there is no detachment from it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then once you're attached, it's hard to detach from
Right.
it. So I think all the pressure that's being put on them, whether it's in the home,
Mm-hmm.
and then they take what's in the home into the schools, and then they're messing up in school. So now they have that pressure. Well,
Right.
now they've isolated themselves because they're having all of these other issues. Now
Mm-hmm.
that they're isolated, more impact is coming or more bullying is coming.
Right.
So all of the pressure that's put on them without someone actually releasing it
Mm-hmm.
or taking time to release it from them, I think that's one of the things. And I do know domestic violence and teen dating abuse does play a factor in
Mm-hmm.
suicide with the kids as well.
Kids are dating way too early. I mean, like, they shouldn't even be thinking about, like, that doesn't say that you can't have a friend, but dating shouldn't even be in a teenager's, like, mirror. You know, it should be called something else. I don't know what it is.
That's the culture, though.
Because
I mean, that's the
yeah,
society.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, but we have to, as parents, we have to label it something else, so that they can not be in that mindset, like ready to get married already. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay for all that, but I think they do it too early.
Yeah.
And in a day and time where technology, social media, all these different things can hinder that,
Yeah.
some kids have from 14 to 21 been with 100 people.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm exaggerating, but that's okay for them.
Right.
You know, to jump from person to person, and that's not good at a young age.
Yeah, that's
What
what
do
I was
you-
going to say. Is
as
that,
a- yeah.
Just seeing it in my students, I mean, I teach 8th grade, and they'll literally in one school year have 4 and 5 boyfriends or girlfriends. Or in one semester, they already working on their 3rd. But just to see how it's weird because, like you said, they're emotionally detached in a way.
Right.
When they see, as far as the value of each other and the value of life and things. And I'm not going to speak for all teenagers, but
Right.
you know, but it is an epidemic
In general, yeah.
Right, in general. But they're also emotionally attached in
Right.
another way, like in the needy sense. And I literally see boys and girls, you know, men have a different way, used to have a different way of hiding their feelings, you know.
Right.
Our age, older, you know, they hide their feelings a little bit different. You display your feelings, correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit different.
Right. Yeah, for
And
sure.
now, I mean, I've watched boys literally cry in the classroom because of a breakup.
Right.
I see it all the
Wow.
time. They can't even finish their whole day.
Yeah.
They can't finish a whole week, you know, because they broke up with a girl.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that, and sometimes it does get, you know, toe that line of like, you know, verbal abuse, you know, domestic violence and things like that. But they don't know how to harness that emotion.
Right.
And then, but the danger is these babies are going to grow up to be adults.
Right.
And
Right.
like you said, they're never taught to harness that emotion and put it somewhere, transfer that and renegotiate it into something else,
Yeah.
then it's going to perpetuate into something else later.
Right.
And it's going to manifest into something
Right.
much more dangerous.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and one downfall man to that is, when you're hurt at an early age, or you see, or if you are,
hurt people hurt people.
yeah, that and
That is not a cliche. That's for real.
yeah, and a person man could just like put like cover over their heart and not even
hard
open
shell.
up. Yeah, hard shell.
hard shell.
Exactly. Yeah.
My idea, this is just my personal opinion on like the upbringing of young men and young women in general. So, and this may play into we're gonna go into some relationship stuff because it's important for kids and not only youth but some parents to understand, how it's established. And this is my perspective. So, young women are nurtured at a young age, all the way up until life is completely different for them. So you guys evolve and have understanding of relationship at a very early age because you've always been nurtured and hugged and all these different things. Young men, we play with Army, Batman, action figures, shut up, get up, stop crying, don't be a punk.
Yeah.
We don't have that emotion, we don't understand what a relationship is. All we understand is that we got to get out into the world and suck it up. So now you take that into teenhood, you take it into adulthood. Some men carry that all the way from when they were kids all the way to the relationship.
Wow.
A lot of times young men don't learn relationships until they meet women and get into a serious relationship with a woman. That's when they learn the most.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, your teen years should be the years where I wouldn't call it dating, but that's where you kind of experience like, how to take care of a woman or, what real friends do that's okay for me. The dating tag, that's different. It's different when you're in a relationship. Kids don't understand relationship. It's like, oh, this is my boyfriend, but
Right.
do you know what that really means?
And they only base it off
You know what
what
I'm
they
saying?
see,
Yeah,
too.
base it off, what they see.
Base it off what they see.
They base it off what they
Most of the
see.
time,
Yep.
it's not a healthy.
Right.
It's more physical.
Right. And I want to ask Daniette, what are some, just speaking on, how we grow up and we adopt these things. In your situation, was there any
question.
background information? Because I do believe that, there's justification whatsoever, but there's a psychological reason why we take abuse. There's a psychological reason why we abuse.
Right.
So, was there anything, just knowing your partner, that like red flags, basically? Like, okay, when he was younger, he told me he used to do this, or his mother told me this. In
Right.
hindsight.
Yeah. That's a good question.
There was
Very
red
good question.
flags, which weren't identified until I was able to identify the cycle of domestic violence.
Okay.
But some of those red flags were harming animals.
Yes.
He
Okay.
Wow.
loved to harm animals. I witnessed
Wow.
him shoot. I mean, it was in a cage, a possum, close range, a 22. Just
Wow.
shot the possum
Wow.
and just killed him right then and there. Just lighting the fires and
Right.
he was just real rebellious. And then once he became an adult, that controlling factor came on. And to a
Right.
woman who does not know that controlling factor, she identifies it as love. Oh, he must love me because he's calling me all the time. Oh, he must
Right.
love me because he wants me by his side all the
Right.
time. So those were the red flags that I did see, but I wasn't able to identify them until I was able to identify what a true cycle of domestic violence is, more so than just hearing the word domestic violence. Because most people hear the word domestic violence and be like, yeah, a man is not supposed to hit you or a woman is not supposed to hit you.
Right.
But do you truly know what the cycle of domestic violence is? And do you know how to identify it? So when it's going in that cycle, you can identify which cycle you're in. Are you in the tension building? Are you in the physical stage, or are you back into the honeymoon?
Right.
And then when you're in that honeymoon, you can already know what to expect. Once I was able to identify that cycle, then that's when I was able to move out of the realm of the domestic violence because I knew what was coming next. But other than that, that was kind of the things. And then, yeah, that's just kind of how it summed up for me to have seen those and should have known those if I would have known what the domestic violence truly was, besides a man is not supposed to hit you.
Right.
Can you break down that cycle for the view? I've never heard of the domestic violence cycle.
Yes.
Have you guys heard of it?
No,
I've
break it
never
down.
heard of it.
No.
Yeah.
So the tension building, of course, comes with the arguments, or it comes with the drinking and the
Okay.
drugs, and it comes with the tension. You know how if someone comes and they pick an argument for no reason,
Gotcha.
that's that tension building stage. And then the next stage is that physical, the actual abuse stage, to where he's hitting, slapping, guns are involved, or any type of weapon is involved. But that physical stage, and then of course in the tension stage, the belittling or him calling you out of your name, those things. And then it turns from the abuse stage to the honeymoon stage, where the honeymoon stage comes around to where he's, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Here's goes those flowers that you never get when you're happy, but you only get when it's I'm sorry time.
Right.
It comes to those stage. And then that cycle continues to repeat and continues to repeat. So
Right.
if someone on the outside doesn't know that cycle, then they're just looking at this woman as, oh, she's dumb, or, that judgmental part comes
Right.
in, when really it is a true cycle that she's attached to. And until she can actually break away from that cycle, she's literally going to be going round and round.
Right. And this just shows you,
interesting.
like, for what, and I'll speak for, I mean,
Cycle
all
is
communities,
unbelievable.
all communities deal with domestic abuse. I don't want to get away from that, but specifically in the African American community, there's much more abuse going on in different scenarios, especially
There's much
in,
more abuse that's being told that's going on.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
but what I'm speaking on is like the untold stories. Like there's so many things happening that we don't know. And it's being depicted in a certain way, which is why it's not being diagnosed properly. So if you think about this country, right? I'll just use this country as for an example. There's a lot of different things that happened in the past that have trickled down into today, and that's left us with less men in the homes. And more women stepping up and becoming more dependent and doing their thing. Now, to me, when you have a young boy, okay, and I'm not saying a woman can't raise a man, a woman technically,
Be careful.
a woman shouldn't be raising a man by herself.
I agree 100%.
Okay, but women are forced to do that. So women can raise men, but here's what you have: you have a feminine young man who is very emotional. Well,
careful
listen to me. Just
listen.
listen to me. Because this is important. You'll have a man who's raised in a home where he thinks people owe him, so he's entitled because his mom has been taking care of him for most of his life.
In general, this is a generalization. It's not all
This is
women.
generalization. This is my experience, okay? Because I was one of those kids that grew up in a home where my mom helped me. She did mostly everything. I mean, I had jobs and stuff, but my mom was always there. So naturally, when I get into a relationship, I used to get into a relationship with a woman. I expected that woman to do all these things for me. So what I'm saying is, it's not that a woman can't raise a man, but there's things that a man can teach a young man growing up that he's supposed to do and be. Like taking out the trash, cutting the grass, these things contribute to how that man is going to respond in a relationship with a woman later on in life. So you have a young man that's out there killing animals and doing all these different things. His mom may not know about that. But since there's no father in the home, he may not be able to restructure and
There
say,
was father there, though.
okay, well,
got
maybe
you.
the father
You're
did. Well, see,
generalizing.
maybe the
You can
father
have
didn't
two-
have a
two-
father.
You can have two corrupt parents.
Well,
in the house.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So right.
Two
Maybe the
parents that are
father
just
didn't
so
have a father.
absent that they don't
Yeah.
even know what's going
Exactly. A lot of our parents came from single parent homes or was in a situations where they didn't have parents. And, the 90s, 80s was crazy, drug century. I mean, just crazy, full of drugs and different things. And that trickled down into everything. So, it's not that, like I said, women can't take care of young men. It's just that when you have a male figure in their life,
It
they
does
can
reinforce, yeah,
right.
definitely.
They can reinforce things that women can't necessarily do. Y'all are nurturers.
Wipe that
You know
sweat
what I'm
off your
saying?
brow.
So you can whoop a kid and give him ice cream in the same minute. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a thing. Oh, it's okay. Here's, eat some ice cream. You know what I'm saying? They forget about it, and that process continues. A man, because I remember what you did. You're going to stay in that room until I tell you to stay in that room. You know what I'm saying? It's a different.
Principled man.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So those kind of things work when it comes to men disciplining young men or women. I mean, a man. Like my daughter, all she gotta do is give me a look, and I'll give her some ice cream. You know what I'm saying? her mother can probably apply different principles to her that she understands for a young woman that I can't. I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? That's important. But that's why it's important to have both, because you know, you're going to need that, you know, in the society. So to me, a lot of the, you know, you spoke that his father was in his life. Maybe he witnessed his father do that, you know, or maybe his father
that the
witnessed his
case?
father do that, you know, wherever he got it from, it was
that the
okay.
case at all?
The case was more so that mom worked a lot, dad worked a lot, and auntie was
That's another- yeah.
Auntie was
Yeah.
the one that, you know, popped up at the school if you were
Right.
there. You know,
Right.
you had to stay at auntie's house if you got suspended from school.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It was more so that, and then just to let the audience know that he is 100% forgiven, and we could sit here right next to
that's
each
awesome.
other and laugh and
That's
giggle.
awesome.
Oh, wow.
Because
That's
it is
awesome.
my child's father, so
Right,
my
right.
main responsibility was to make sure that the co-parenting was great and that my daughter was raised with the knowledge of knowing what domestic violence was and
Right.
what mom and dad went through, but also with that voice of knowing that at any given time you can ask your dad why,
Right.
just as well as you can ask your mom why. So that's something.
Has he
big as
changed?
well.
I mean, has he changed?
Now that I
From your
can't
perspective.
speak on,
Okay.
none whatsoever, just because
got
I
you.
want to
Not
say, of
together.
course, he's changed.
I got you.
But
Well, I understand. Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
you know,
We
like I
understand.
said, my daughter's identified enough to where if she goes over there, she would be able to come back and say, you know, hey, mom, you know, they were arguing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So she can identify argument versus a domestic violence situation. So those
Right.
were my main keys. Him changing,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, prayerfully, he has. But that's something that I just can't be like, oh yeah, he's changed. He's
I
a
got you.
preacher in church now, and he's, you know,
Right,
I just can't. I can't.
Right.
I
Well,
can't say that.
what? So, you know, being involved with him at, you know, at that point, what kept you going back? I mean, do you think it was more fear of leaving?
It was a number of things. That main thing was a fear. I had never lived on my own. So I didn't know what that other side, it was those I didn't know side. That unknown side is more so of what it was. And then the fear of knowing that he said that he would kill me. But because he was a street man and because he dealt drugs in the street, therefore, knowing that once I involved the police, he knew I was serious. So once I did go that final day and go get that restraining order and involve the victims' advocates and really got it, he knew that I was serious once that protection order went to his mother's door, which means that everything was put out to his family because his family knew nothing.
Oh, wow.
My family didn't know nothing for the first 8 years.
Wow.
And then when I did tell them, they removed me from the situation 2 days later. However, they removed me with no plan. So since I did not have a plan, that means that his honeymoon stage came back around, and therefore
Being
I was,
nice
I
and-
was, and he knew what I needed. I was a full-time student. I didn't work at that time, so therefore it wrapped right on back in. And then 3 months after, so my family moved me out in 2008. I went with my mother. I moved in with my mother. 3 months later, I moved out from my mother and moved him right back in with me. So from there, that shut down all family access and all family, you know, anything that they wanted to do because they looked at it like, well,
Right.
we just did this. Why did you go back?
Right.
Well, I didn't have a plan.
Right.
I still had a cell phone that was due. I still had storage. Like, hey, you okay? Do you need this? Here, take this. Because if you ask me if
Right.
I need it, I'm gonna tell you no, just because that was me.
Right.
But because you didn't know, we didn't know that plan. We didn't know any of this.
Right.
It was just more so I shut them down. So once I shut them down, I was alone.
Right.
I didn't want to tell anybody else.
Right.
I got tired of being a burden to my best friend who was there, so I shut her down too. So then it was just more so it was me, and then the people that I was connected to, besides my best friend who I had shut down, they were in the same predicament. So of course we could share the same stories because you over here hurting and getting abused, I'm over here hurting and getting abused.
Right.
So girls, and it was just more so of the unknown, not believing in myself, not being able to identify my self-worth just because that was something
Right.
I never tapped into. I knew I was a great person, I knew I was a loving person, but yet again I didn't know my self-worth.
Right.
So then once I was able to tap into that, and once I truly was able to get a grips of God, you know, once I really got in line with him and got that connection with him, that's when things just started getting revealed.
Right.
That's when strength started getting stronger. And then that's when, once February 6, 2014 came, that's when I was able to just go
Yeah,
and never look
amen.
back. And never look back.
And that's
Yeah.
the power of spirituality.
I applaud you, man, for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's the power of the church, and that's the power of spirituality and understanding your relationship with God. Because, well, a lot of people there's people that just don't understand, how life works in regards to the Bible and different things. Even, if you study Islam or whatever, a lot of these cultures teach you how to become a better you.
Principles
And when you deal with someone who is irregular, you can self-identify that situation is not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you can be stronger and get out there on your own and do so many different things, which is how you did it. You built up your own self-character and understood your worth and knew, what you had to offer for yourself. And then you was able to go out and display that. And now you have a foundation, Silent No More, that where you're out here, kicking knowledge, giving the same thing that you found out yourself. Was there anybody in your life that really, that you can remember that stood by you and said, look, we're going to get through this? Who's that person? Because
Yes.
somebody had to be that one in your
It
ear, like, look, we're
was.
going to get through this.
Her name is May Underwood. That's my
Shout out to
girl.
May.
Shout out to May
All
Underwood.
day. Shout out
Yes.
May Underwood.
She was there. She actually is a domestic violence survivor and had her nose broke as well, and she left. But not once did she put me down. Not once did she look at me different. When I that my family didn't know, cleaning refrigerators out and taking it to her house and staying for
Right.
4 days, then coming back. But she full access to her, and still to this day she is like that. So I call her my angel. The day that he chased us, or we had the high speed chase with the shotgun out the window, I actually called her and was like, hey, he's chasing me, the shotgun is out the window, I need you to meet me here. She met me here, and he actually chased me and her
Right.
with that shotgun out the window, and she's driving it. So I definitely thank her from the bottom of my heart, and she definitely knows that. But it is something serious, and I do want to make sure that I tell the listeners that if you are in a domestic violence situation, or if you was, just make sure that you go back, even though you're out of it and you may be even out of it mentally, go back and make sure that your kids are out of it.
Yeah.
Because it is traumatic. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And if you don't know how to get your kids out of it, it's okay to get counseling. It's
Right.
okay to get therapy. There is nothing wrong with that, because it's making you a better you.
Right. And
Or
like-
your kid a better kid,
Yeah.
as they grow up. So that's the
and like
important.
Alicia spoke on, she became a bully.
Yeah.
She wanted to demand money. Here, do this.
And
Sit down. Shut
when
up.
I got out of that in 2014, when I tell you, my kids put me, well, I won't say my kids, but she put me through hell and high water. Because that transition by itself, when we think about, oh my God, I done left, I'm able to get this apartment now,
Right.
finally for the first time, things are looking great.
Right.
But yet I knew I had to go back and tap into that, and it wasn't something that just happens overnight.
Right.
So through that transition, I had to make sure that she's identifying exactly what she was doing.
Right.
So when she was in her room all those times and wanted to be alone and didn't want to be bothered,
Created
that-
isolation.
That
Yeah.
was a sign of the trauma that she dealt with through
Right.
domestic violence. So I had to make sure that I not only identified that to her, that this is a trauma that you're going through, but I also had to tap into it and educate her on the ways to get around it, ways to conquer this, and
Right.
not let this be you, not
Right.
let this overpower you. So that was something big too. And now when I tell you she's getting she done got 3
Got them
leadership
leader skills.
leaderships
Okay.
award from the sheriff's department. She's an honor
Shout out to
roll
Alicia.
student.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
She's great.
Absolutely. So how have things transitioned for you? You knew what you were doing, and you identified what was going on. So how are things transitioned for you since you identified what you were doing to people?
It's getting better. I don't do it as much as I used to. It's like it's in my head, and it's like it feels like I'm supposed to do it, but then again, I know I'm not supposed to do it. So it's
More
like
conscious of it.
Choices.
Right.
Yeah. So before I do it, I think like, am I supposed to say this to this person? Am I supposed to do this? Should
Right.
I ask for this?
Right.
And stuff like that.
Right, and that's growth. That's
Right.
growth when you can ask yourself questions like that. Because, and I tell my kids this too. To everything that you do, every decision that you make, think about who that's going to affect. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, as a young person, you don't necessarily think about the consequences, which is why a lot of things happen. And kids end up going to jail or hurting
Yeah.
people, and they didn't intend to do that. They grow up and try. Why did I do that? It's one of those things where as you become a young adult and become an adult eventually, that's something that you should think about. How old are you now?
14.
14 years old. So you still got a lot of life to live. And you're learning these principles right now. You're going to help so many people. Just realize that you're a shining light in so many people's lives because you
Absolutely.
experienced something that some kids won't even experience because they know your story.
Right.
That in itself is going to impact so many people. So just keep doing what you're doing as far as just understanding what's happening in that moment. It's easy to pick on somebody. We all deal with kids that like to pick on people and it's funny and I'm in the in crowd. But guess what? At the end of the day, you're affecting somebody that has to leave,
Yeah.
go home. They probably cry in their room. Their parents don't even know it. And guess what? Some of these kids hang themselves. They end up killing themselves or hurting somebody else extremely bad. Some kids get bullied so much that they come to school and shoot the whole school up because everybody's laughing at them. So they have no remorse. So you have to understand that every decision you make in regards to
Yeah.
other kids or yourself is a reflection of not only your mom and your parents, but it's a reflection of you and what you want to be. You see what I'm saying? So you're making the right choices, and it's unfortunate what happened to you, but the fact that you are identified and sitting right here right now with us and understanding that and taking it in, that just shows how brilliant of a person you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. So keep it up. I mean, you're doing an amazing job
Yeah. Thank
with her, and despite what happened with your past and everything, and you are able to sit here and let other people know.
My pain had purpose.
Resilient, man.
Yeah.
Say
Very
that
resilient.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, when you think about it, you start thinking about the things that affect people.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And you're able to help other people based on your story.
Definitely.
So what are some of the viewers saying?
One viewer wrote, says, "This is not an excuse, but we are a target. Streets work, police, etc. That causes a lot of people to go home and vent, and sometimes we don't know where our attitudes at home come from. Men, women, it's a lot to do with things on the outside."
Right.
So, I believe that viewer was trying to say that, they're some people can bring the outside world into their household.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
So anything could trigger them to act a certain way. When I was in the IMPD Academy, one of the reasons why I resigned from that was they start talking, about more of the stress level that officers go through and how they become, abusive towards their wives.
Wow.
And the percentage was really, really high. Now, not saying that I would ever hit a woman or anything like that, but I looked at that, and when we start to have like classes, on the effects of what goes on the street and how they brought it back home, I mean, I just didn't want to be a part of that. I didn't want to take that chance. So, what do you say to people that they might go through things, on the outside, and then they bring them home? Like, how do you separate the two?
For me, it's just more so being able to identify that and knowing that whatever is going on the outside is actually triggering you to be anger or to have that controlling figure. Because domestic violence is control. Most people think it's anger because that person is angry when it's done, but domestic violence is mainly control. So being
Expand
able
on that. When you say control.
it's control. Once an individual loses control, they feel like they've lost something. So that's that main piece is whether it's the control of that home, whether it's the control they lost the
Themselves.
controls of themselves,
Yeah.
right? If that individual doesn't feel like they have that control, then they feel like they've lost it. So therefore, let me belittle you, and as long as I can put you back down to make you serve me or to make you feel like I am the one, then I will continue to bring you down. Because I do know some angry people, but they don't hit women. I know some angry women, but they don't hit men. So again, that control factor plays a big part in being able to separate that. But that outside world plays a part, whether it is a person getting fired from their job or whether it is the boss just disrespected you in front of all your peers. So now you brought that home, and because your wife hasn't cooked dinner, you gonna go ahead and take everything
Go
out
off,
on her
yeah.
instead of normally it would be, well, oh, okay, well maybe she's having a bad day or maybe she's just that tired or let me pop this in, so it's different things in different ways from that. So I do understand where they're coming from, but that still does not give a person an excuse to hit anyone.
Right.
Yeah, those are great points. And you touched on men. Why do you think that men have a hard time, going to someone saying that they are going through domestic violence at home?
Oh, yeah. That's because, like he mentioned earlier, you guys are raised to be tough, Tony. You guys are raised not to show any fear. You guys are raised to be brave. Therefore, if you do tell anyone that you're being abused, that one, you will get looked at like, are you serious? You're a man.
Right.
And then you guys feel that it's a form of weakness. You don't want to show any form of weakness. Therefore, you'll stay silent. And that's why I truly believe statistics are low for men, just because they are silent from the fear of being viewed as weak or being viewed as not being brave, or that statistic or that thing that was put on them as they grew up into the men that they are today. So that's more so of why those voices aren't being heard at all. It's just from everything that's just being that's been put on their chests to hold in. When you were a kid, you're like, you don't cry.
Right.
What are you crying? You better suck that up. Don't let me see another tear.
Right.
When
Yeah.
girls, when they cry, like he said, we coming over there and we, are you okay? You need a Band-Aid here. Let me come and do this for
Right.
you. So just being raised like that it plays a huge part in men being silent when it comes to domestic violence.
That's
So-
interesting
yeah.
because I read that 85% of domestic violence accounts for women. So there's that 15% for men, and I thought, well, that's pretty low, and that answers that question that it's a silent epidemic.
Yes.
Men
There's a
are
lot of
speaking
Norbits
up.
out there.
And right, and not only that, the verbal abuse. Would you say that men actually suffer more verbal abuse than physical?
That is a great
Because
question.
Women, we can just
Yeah,
go
we just-
in
Yeah.
on men
Man, that's a
and
good
not
question.
know that is
Right.
domestic violence. That's violence.
Let's get all integrated
Yeah,
here.
That goes for
in.
young men and older men.
We go hard
Definitely.
and
Right.
not realize, dang, I just broke this man down.
Definitely.
Right. Right.
I've seen some situations where a woman made a man feel like he was nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, at one
Literally.
point, I was able to do that. At one point, when I turned, when that domestic violence took hold of me
Right.
and had that hold of me, I was able to kill you with my mouth. That was something that I knew I could do. I always knew since a child that my gift was communication skills. So
Right.
then being able to kill you, so after so long, I was able to break him down because I knew his limits.
Right.
I was able to learn him after so long.
Right.
So I was able to break him down once he knew. Once he knew everything that was going on and what he could and could not do, because my family knew.
Right.
Because once the physical abuse turned off, then that's when the emotional abuse and the financial abuse played its part.
Right.
Sexual abuse was the very first thing I went through.
Right.
So once he turned that physical abuse off, then I went through the other tiers of domestic violence.
Right.
So I knew that when I went to work, or when I went out, wherever I went, don't step on me wrong, because I will cut you down just with my mouth.
Right.
So that's something that us women do with men, and it's
Right.
something. But I will say the other forms is, women like to throw things.
Right.
Even though you ain't throwing a punch, you throwing a pot, or you throwing something hard that can throw at him. And a lot of men, the men that don't hit back,
Right.
they taking those things. I actually know a gentleman, that went through that with his wife. He's letting her throw things at him, and the kids are seeing it and all that. So that plays a big part. But that verbal abuse is huge.
Oh, yeah, it is.
With women, and they not realize it until you come back at them with that same verbal abuse, and then they ready to cry and
Right.
do all of that stuff.
Right.
I have a question too. How important is that first incident, that first time.
Right.
How
Happened one
how
time and you let it
crucial is
slide.
that first time, right, when you let it slide or you walk away. How crucial is that?
You know what? Because I didn't walk away. So the first incident was the sexual abuse. It only happened one time, but that one time that I did say no and he took it, it was just more so, okay, like I didn't know what sexual abuse was. So I'm just
Right.
thinking that, oh, okay,
Right.
let me just go ahead and give it to him, get it
Right.
over with. And
Right.
then once that first hit came, because it was never a fist fight, it was never us going square up hand to hand.
Right.
It was again, he's about 6'3", 260 pounds, so he was a big guy. So with that one strike, it took me to the ground.
Right.
So when I got that one strike, it was just more so of that, wow, I can't believe it. So I instantly went into a shame. I instantly knew that I wasn't going to tell nobody. When I
Right.
went to the emergency room, his cousin went with me instead of him. So I instantly protected him. I told him that
right.
I got jumped by 4 girls and they had a sock and had something in it and it hit me in the eye.
Oh, man.
So once I protected him, that was the beginning
made it
of it all.
accepted.
That was the
Right.
acceptance of it all. And then once I went back, that was where he knew that he had that control.
Right.
And that he can do what he wanted. So from that point, I got hit in that same eye after my surgery 3 more times.
Wow.
Before I started saying that, before I started bringing up my, I
Right.
had surgery and you
Right.
know this and why you keep doing this. But
Wow.
if you don't leave, then that's his okay to, I got this.
Right.
That's that hook on that fish's lip. Like, okay, let me go ahead and keep reeling you in and reeling you in until you dead. Because I done pulled you out of that
Right.
water, so you dead.
Right. I mean, and that's the next stage. It starts out as verbal and then physical. And eventually you take so much physical, you wind up in a ditch somewhere.
Right.
Because now this person is, look, like I don't need this person no more. What I need this person for? I'm just going to keep beating up on them. And, some people get it mentally. And I was watching something on TV the other day where a couple went through that, both man and woman. This woman, we're speaking on women beating on men. I mean, this woman has so much hate for this man, and they got to identifying and saying that her mom was in a situation where she used to talk down her husband and, so on and so on. So some women who are abusive like that come from families where they see the mother going in on the man, and they think that that's how relationships supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's a chain.
Yeah, and then it becomes physical, and then so on and so on. And the guy ended up getting shot in the back of the head by this woman because he just allowed her to do so much, and she felt that it was acceptable. So it happens on both spectrums, and it's very unfortunate. But it really starts at a young age. That's why we have to take it serious what young people see. Because while it may be traumatizing, it also may be in their head how life is supposed to be. It's just like us growing up in the hood. We don't understand corporate America coming from the hood. We like, why everybody talking so well?
Yeah.
Ain't nobody. Why everybody look so different? Why y'all
Proper
dressed up?
English, shirt and
And
tie,
I
yeah,
kid you
exactly.
not. I was a friend of mine that has a business. One of his buddies got out of jail, and he wanted to help him get back into society or whatnot. And he's a corporate guy. He wants to compete. He does professional training, and he wants to compete with LA Fitness and all that. So he's very, very structured, and he wanted to help his buddy out. Buddy got out of jail. Buddy saying, "No, man, we shouldn't wear these. We should wear the tank tops and the." It's just like, man. And I'm sitting there listening to this dude like, he don't want you to succeed.
Right.
But baby, he just don't know.
You don't know.
He comes from an environment where it's acceptable for you to wear tank tops and do your own thing. Fend for yourself, not necessarily understanding if you're wanting to compete with company giants like that, you have to somewhat do what they do. You know what I'm saying? At least get in the door. Then you can decide once you start making money how you want to run your company. But that's a reason why some companies fail. They bring people in that don't understand how it's supposed to be. This is the same thing happening in domestic violence and domestic abuse. Some people just come from environments where they don't understand how life is really supposed to be. They don't understand how to live in a neighborhood that's clean. You know what I'm saying? You could tell. You roll through a neighborhood and you see a house, grass ain't cut, trash at a lawn, pamper, whatever. They just don't care because they come from an environment where that's acceptable. You know what I'm saying? So, it just shows you how we need to be more careful with how we bring up our young people. Our young people are the next generation. Pretty soon we're going to do our thing and we're going to be up out of here, and we leaving these kids to fend for themselves.
Right.
And if they grow up in an environment where they don't understand, they think domestic abuse is okay or teen abuse, ain't no way your kid should be getting hit on in a relationship, getting hit on by some other person, whether that be a boy or girl. There's no way. I just can't even fathom that. But it happens every single day.
Yeah.
These kids are dating way too young, and they get in these relationships, and the young people, ain't no way. If it's hard for you to understand what a relationship is at 21, 20 years old, how can you understand what a relationship is at 14, 15 years old?
Right.
And it's important for parents out here to know that it's 1 in 3 teens that experience dating abuse. It's not 1 in 1,000 teens.
Right.
It's 1 in 3. So if you
Right.
stand 3 teens in front of you, one of those teens will experience dating abuse if they're not educated on it.
Right.
The same is with sexual assault. Indiana is the second in the nation with sexual assault amongst our high schoolers.
Right.
So if they're not aware of what sexual assault is and what domestic violence is, then those things will continue to happen to our
Right.
youth
Absolutely.
in the schools and in the home. And domestic violence is a chain. And once you latch that chain, which means exposing it to your kids, you have created a new link on that chain that your kids are just going to continue to link on until they are aware and able to break that chain apart and
Right.
throw it away.
Right. We have to encourage and make kids understand that you can be anything you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Self-pride is everything. Understanding your relationship with God is one. Understanding your self-worth. You get out into a world and you get with somebody and you think that their way of life is acceptable, and you have to earn their right to be in their presence. Some of these people just like, you don't deserve to be in my presence.
Yep.
If you want to be in my presence, you got to do this, and this, and they think it's cute.
Yep.
Nothing cute about that. I see stuff on social media all the time. Dude walking a woman with a chain on her neck, walking her down the street. Yeah, this is my so-and-so. You seen that? This is my so-and-so. Why people laughing? It's not funny. Why you put a chain on a woman's neck and walk her down the street?
Like she a dog.
It's like, even if it's comedy, it's still not funny to me.
Yeah, man, that's
Right,
ignorant.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's very ignorant. So we have to be careful, what we're, what the kids are seeing, and what we can't unsee half of this stuff. Some of our friends just, they just share stuff, but it's important for us to understand that we need to empower the youth and to help them understand that when they're faced with a situation where someone is abusive, that they can self-identify and say, wait, I'm better than this. I come from a family where I'm appreciated, where my mom is appreciated, my dad's appreciated, I'm appreciated. All of a sudden you meet some dude that don't care about nothing. That's a sign right there. He may have some new Jordans on. He may have the new style pants, whatever it is. He may have a new car. That means nothing if he doesn't treat you right,
Right.
That's
or
that
if she doesn't
outside
treat you
factor.
right. Right. That's the factor. That's some of the things that we go through. Go
I have a
ahead.
question for Alicia. Are you doing anything in your school to promote the importance of domestic violence amongst your peers?
No, but like as people come to me or as I gain more friends and go over their house, I start to notice more things. So as I notice those things, I kind of like give them information and if they need more. Sometimes I may have a card or sometimes I may just give them my mom's number and be like, you could just call this number and talk to this number and tell them what you need to tell them because
Right.
I don't know everything, but I do
Yeah.
know a little bit and I can identify it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's excellent. See, this is why your organization is so important.
Yeah.
Your daughter's a living witness for that.
Definitely.
And just imagine, it starts small, but somebody is starting. I was thinking about this the other day where I said, people don't feel like they're impactful. Like they look at the world and they see how many people it is
Right.
and say, well, how does my voice matter? It matters.
It matters a
Because
lot.
if you affect one person, that one person could tell another person, that person could tell another person. We can't have the mindset that we're so small and we're so many people in this world that
We're all connected.
we're not impacted. We're not impacting people.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? When we started the gray area, we was thinking like, man, you think of all the media giants out there, we couldn't think about that. We can only think about what can we do to help change
Yep.
what's happening in our neck of the woods.
Definitely.
And maybe one day that grow into something exponential. You know what I'm saying? That becomes a something great, and that's what I see in my mind. That maybe this is
already
going
great.
to be bigger than life, you know. But when you first start, you're like, man, you know, are we wasting money? Are we, you know, how can we fit into this puzzle? We just didn't think about it. We said, let's just do it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, same with your organization. You know, it may start small, but you're going to have 100,000 people walking in the name of Silent No More.
Global.
You know, like Black Lives Matter. You see how they're being attacked.
Yes.
People think it's a hate group and all these different things. It grew so fast. Did you think for 1 minute that they thought that BLM would mean anything?
Right.
You know, they were just starting for what they could in their life and what was going on for them, and it became something global, being used all over the world now. You know, so it's important for us to individually have self accountability and responsible enough to say, you know what, if I want to be the change, you know, I want to see. You know, we got to be the change that we want to see. We have to be that change, and we have to start somewhere. And your program is very impactful. I don't know any other. There's probably other programs around, but I don't know any other programs that focus on teen abuse in the aspect that you do in our community.
And
I know that there's
that's the problem.
yeah, I know that there's a lot of they kind of mesh it into these different programs, and then, yeah, we do that, you know, but there's no focus, you know, so a lot of people are being missed. So again, it's up to us to get out here in our neighborhoods and become self accountable and say, you know what, I'm going to be a branch of that. You know? I mean, this is just amazing. Silent No More. As soon as I seen it, you know, you hit us up, and Davisha,
yes.
Davisha was telling us about you.
Shout out to Davisha.
Yeah, what's
out
she
to
doing?
Davisha,
Like helping
yes.
businesses grow from
Yes.
domestic. I mean, like all of these are necessary.
Yes.
There's no competition. Everything is necessary because
no
everybody has a different perspective.
And that's one of the things I believe our community, there's that gap and no bridge. Is
Right.
that everybody wants that business.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yet when it comes to non-for-profits and when it comes to community work, you have to partner together.
You have to partner.
have to work
Yes.
together.
Absolutely.
It's major.
In order to meet the needs. And a lot of people don't want to do that just because of their status quo or just because who they're attached to
Right.
or things of that nature. But at the end, the purpose is to help the people.
Right.
And it doesn't matter, you know, when you decrease yourself,
Yeah.
you know, and allow him to increase, then that's where it should come. But definitely community involvement and partnerships
Yeah.
and knowing what's out there. And so that way when someone does come connected to me who has a drug abuse, I can
Right.
be able to refer them to someone else
Right.
more so than just saying, oh, well, let me see what I can do and what I can
Right.
pull up and what I can look up.
Right.
So that's big as well, too. We got to come together, community. We
Have to
definitely-
come together. You as a foundation, you get $1 million. You got 200 kids.
Right.
You gonna use? I mean, come on. You gonna need some help.
Definitely.
Start partnering with this 501(c)(3)
Definitely.
and get with the companies, foundations that have the money, and these companies need to stop being foundations need to stop being stingy.
Right.
That's
Some of them
the thing.
have CEOs that are very proficient in living. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yes.
Nice
Yeah, they
car,
living
nice
good.
crib. You know,
Living
and with helping two people.
lavish. Right.
Come on, man.
And what I've learned becoming a 501c3 organization is that you become a threat
Yeah.
Right.
with the grant money.
Right. Can you explain that? Break that down.
What do you?
How you become a threat? Like,
Because, say, for instance, I focus on domestic violence and
Right.
teen dating abuse. Well, we have those big companies that you were speaking about that are out there
Trying to absorb all the little
get
stuff.
all that money, because it's not so many of them out here.
Right.
So they're getting funded majority of that
Right.
$1 million grant that I
Taking
see
money
come
from
to
the
my
pot.
email all
Right,
the
right,
time.
right.
They're
Sure.
getting that money. So when another then that is a threat to them.
They absorb it.
Now
They-
you're
they-
taking away
yeah.
from their organization to feed your organization when
Right.
really you're impacting two totally different areas
Right.
Right.
of the region. Whether it is still in Indiana, you're still impacting or reaching different areas. For example, I go into the 46218 because I know that it's one of the highest areas in Indianapolis with the
I'm from that
onslaught
area.
of
I'm from that
domestic
area.
violence.
yes.
You don't see domestic violence groups or domestic violence anything
Right.
in that area. so me going in there, that plays a big part, but because they don't know anything about it, and like you said, I know a lot of people that don't know the shelters for
Right.
domestic violence. They
I
don't
was
know who
going
they
to
are.
ask you to
Wow.
name some of those safe havens
Yeah.
that are out there.
Yeah, well, you got, of course, the Julian Center, which is off of Meridian. Then you got the Coburn Place, which is off of 38th Street as well. And then you got some other organizations, such as the Beacon. There are a lot of them, and I can definitely get you more.
Okay.
But just those organizations by itself, and then the Coburn Place is one of those that take not only the victim but also their children.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other shelters don't take children. So once,
Really?
Correct. So once
Wow.
the victim is in house, then they would actually get the children over to the Children's Bureau.
Oh, okay.
That actually houses those. So now you have
Oh,
a
okay.
separate.
It's a different process.
So not only does this victim try to go to a safe haven, but because now mind you, let me say that all of the shelters here in Indianapolis, Indiana, are 100% full, and there is a waiting list of up
Really?
to eight months.
Oh my goodness.
So there's so much impacted on why a victim stays, but just those, going into a shelter that may have an open bed or may have two open beds, but to know
Right.
that you'll be separated from your child if you go to that shelter will keep you at home.
Right.
Just because
Right.
you don't want to separate from your child.
Absolutely.
So that's something big as well that most people don't focus on when it's time to leave a domestic violence situation, more so than just leaving.
Right.
They
And
know.
and that's something like you're not necessarily thinking about. You're thinking about trying to get away.
Correct.
How to change your environment, but most people need a plan.
Correct.
And you're able to help direct them to the plan that they need. If not give them the plan, you're able to direct them to somebody who can give them the plan.
Yes.
That's what these foundations are for. You know what I'm saying? And that's important. Like I said, man, I love what you're doing. A lot of times, the people that come in here on our show, a lot of the times, it's things that I never even thought about. So like this is my first time really thinking about like, man, it's a lot of teenagers out there going through it.
They are.
You see all the suicides and all these different things happening, and it just never sparks your brain until you see something like this.
Or even the grades, like some of the symptoms to watch out for just the young children are
Right.
the anxiety and increased fear, the depression, the loss of interest in school, friends, and other things that they may used to enjoy. The sleeping problems and the nightmares of bedwetting,
Right.
increased aggression, anger. Think that they must not be hungry this full week. That change of appetite, and then in the adolescence it goes back to the drug and alcohol abuse.
Right.
When did your child start smoking weed? Have you ever thought
Drinking,
about
yeah.
maybe that was a reflection, or that was part of that trauma from your domestic violence situation, the skipping school, changing peer groups, the rebellious and opposition behavior, again
Right.
the declining in grades and social withdrawals, and then depression and anxiety. So they kind of go hand in hand from a young children to an adolescent, but it's some of those symptoms that we want to make sure that we pay attention to in our children, and know that it may just not be them, or it may just not be somebody at the school that's doing it, and it may just be what's going on in the home. So tapping into that home is very, very big.
Absolutely.
Very big.
Absolutely. I mean, and we're in the process of building that back up. Shout out to all the people out there that's working day in and day out,
Right.
volunteering their time. Because I don't know if people understand this. 2017 has sparked some brains and
Yes.
sparked some revolutionaries. Because we know more now than ever that it's time to start building the home back up.
Definitely.
Getting families back to where they should be. And a lot of our, and shout out to the old people, they dealt with a lot of this, so I know that they're happy to see that, the kids and generations coming after them are starting to step up. It's our duty to step up and recognize what we have to do to get back to where we need to get to. We can sit around and complain about what's happening in politics and what's happening in the streets and all these things, but if we're not individually holding ourselves accountable for getting out here, or providing platforms that where we can discuss and have dialogue with this, we're part of the problem. And we need to stop waiting on some savior, what I'm saying, that's going to come down. You had to move your feet. You know what I'm saying? The savior comes when you move your feet. You know, faith without works is dead. So in order for us to attain those things and move in the right direction, we have to move our feet and make it happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's automatic. I mean, like, I'm taking this, you know, to a different, but I really love that, you know, the communities are starting to open up and put stuff together now.
Right.
Because something sparked in my brain. He said, man, we focus on the wrong things. We put so much energy into explaining to people why we need help. We don't have to explain nothing to no one.
Right.
We just have to become that change that we want to see. That's it.
Yeah.
We spend so much time battling people
Right.
verbally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Getting into these
Debating.
wars.
Yeah.
And some people just will never understand or care to understand what you're going through. Their DNA makeup or chemical makeup or
Right.
family life, however they was raised, is just not in them. They see you as a problem, and you should fix yourself. And a lot of that is right.
Yes.
We need to fix our own communities. We need to get
Charity
out here
starts at home.
and
Yes.
exactly. We need to get out here and start worrying about where our kids at. What are they doing? Go in their room. Stop giving them permission to close their doors and be isolated. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Right.
If your kid is going in the room and standing there all day long, and you don't see him for 3 days,
Right.
that's a problem. What y'all doing in there? You know what I'm saying? We don't live like that, right? Open this door. Keep this door open.
Take it off the hinges.
You know what I'm saying? You know,
I used to do that.
you got to get back to it. You know what I'm saying? And we have to
Why?
become a village again.
Why?
Because I was shut out so much that I was just used to it. Like
Right.
I wouldn't even go in there ask her a question. I'd just be like, forget it.
And that was
I
a
just-
that was a chain reaction off of me when I was in a domestic violence situation. I shut myself out, and that was my way of thinking that I was shielding, not knowing that that was where I said that I was abusing my kids, and I actually said that.
Right.
That was that form of abuse to me. Is because when I would close myself off in my room and darken myself and just be in that own dark place,
Right.
then it was neglecting my kids. Well, and mainly her, because like I said, I was in it for 12 years, and here she is about to be 15. So you can imagine that
Right.
that was majority of her life. So some of the things that I did and displayed to her, she initially turned around and did the exact same thing.
Right.
So if
Right.
I would have been just worried about me and focusing on me growing, you know, once I moved out of this, oh, let me work, let me do this, let me do this, let me provide these Jordans, let me provide this, and let me provide that.
Right.
I'm still covering up the fact that she was hurting inside and
Yeah.
that she
Right.
was still dealing with something. So I had to go back and tap into that.
Right.
And not just open these doors and say, we going to keep these doors open, but explain why this
Why,
door
yeah.
was being open and explain what exactly her actions was, and admit that these were based off of mommy's actions, and admit that this was based off of what mommy went through.
Right.
And then to let her know what ways that she can do. So basically, I identify that to her, and then turn her around and teach her what she should be doing. Teach her
Right.
that coming in here and laying across mommy bed is okay, or us going in the front room and come on, let's watch a
It's
movie,
hard.
or,
Right.
or
Right.
or do things like that. So.
Right.
How's it hard?
Cause like now to this day, she be like, come in here, come sit in the living room, or whatever. And half of the time,
Right.
like,
Right.
like
Yep.
I just be on my phone. I won't even turn on the TV, or
Mm-hmm.
I have my music up. She'll call my name. Sometimes I get mad, and I just go. I say something, and it's like
You're so used to being isolating yourself that now it's unfamiliar to be a regular kid and to let you know, like my girlfriend, she's great at this. Like her, man, we both have our own kids, but her kids, man, they bust in the door. They don't care what's going on. Hey, what's going on, Mom? What's going on? Let me tell you about I love that. You know what I'm saying? And my kids do the same thing. They just bust in the room talking. That's how kids do. That's what they do. You know, they want to eat, want to come in. You know, they shouldn't isolate themselves and be like so. So what you're doing is going through a transition where you're realizing that it's normal to be social and to be with your mom and to y'all to kick it, watch movies, do whatever y'all do. You know what I'm saying? But you've been isolated so long, you've closed that door so long that you don't even realize that that's not normal. You know what I'm saying? For a kid your age, these are the years where you should let's go to prom and all these different things that you should be wanting to do as a teenager, but because of what you were exposed to, you're just now figuring out that hey, maybe I can have fun, maybe I can go outside and enjoy the earth, you know.
Like, I don't go outside really.
Yeah.
It's because of where we live.
Yeah, I think
Right,
that
right.
most
I
mean,
teenagers
And,
nowadays-
and that main thing with that, because she gets the love and she gets the affection,
Yeah.
and I thank God again for May because that was something that her and her kids always did. So it was displayed
Shout
to
out to
me.
May.
So so that way I can put that back on my kids. But one thing I do know is that it's not going to be something like I did. It's not going to be February. So I left February 6th. So that means that she left February 6th. Or it's not going to be an instant transition for a
yeah.
child.
Right, for sure.
So most parents, it would be well, if you don't want to just go on somewhere, so they would shut that child down. But to continue to work and to continue with that progress,
Absolutely.
that's that main key.
Absolutely.
That I know and that other parents should know is that even though they are doing that, that's because of everything that you put them through.
Absolutely.
So stay on, stay tight on that and stay and keep
Yeah.
encouraging and,
got
and
it.
keep lifting
Yeah.
and it'll
Yeah.
turn back
Yeah,
around.
that's
Do
it.
do you feel that you and your mother's bond is getting stronger?
Yes.
That's good.
I'm starting to talk to her more about things, but it's still like in my head, it's like certain things I still can't come to her about because it's like I'm gonna get judged or like she's not
Like
gonna
what?
listen.
Like what? I mean, you don't
I know the one topic that she's talking about.
you don't have to get too personal. though.
Yeah, so let's
You know what I'm saying?
skip that topic because we battling that topic
Right,
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 now,
right, right.
and the devil is a lie on that
Right,
topic.
right,
okay,
So
right.
we gonna keep
I
that
got
where
you.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, for sure.
Some things though is just I believe is just normal teenage,
Yeah.
behavior. Because
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
children they have those.
It's that
moments.
identity crisis.
Yeah, they're gonna
Yeah,
want
yeah,
some-
for sure.
Sometimes
That's what it
they
is.
want to.
Yeah,
they
sure,
want to
yeah,
go
yeah.
little personal time. We want personal time to ourselves, and sometimes they want to be social. Sometimes just not cool to be kicking it with mom
Right.
and dad.
Right.
Sometimes I
Yeah.
get it. So yeah, some of that is just a little normal teenage behavior.
Yeah, yeah. Just
But
just
it's good
yeah.
to recognize
Right.
what is and what is not. So just keep that. Always keep that. And I was going to say earlier, that self-regulation, which is what you would call that, knowing your triggers, knowing those, being able to identify
Right.
those types of things, they're going to just carry over to so many different things in your life and as you grow up to where it doesn't even have to deal with domestic violence. You'll be able to self-regulate on anything.
Right.
Whether it's taking a test at school, whether it's friendships, whether
Yeah.
it's deciding on college, and any kind of stress, trauma, whatever, you'll be able to actually use those skills that you have developed,
Right.
and also you will teach that to your children.
Right. right.
Everything that your mom is teaching you, and everything that you're teaching her, it'll translate to your grandchildren.
Yep.
And that whole cycle
Right.
is done.
Thank you. Yep.
Right. Just understand as a young person that you are coming and transitioning from a situation that is not normal. So don't ever look at yourself and feel like you're not normal. You're perfect in every single way, and there's a reason why you went through this. Like we said earlier, there's a reason why you went through this because you're going to help somebody.
Yeah.
It was important for you to be tested and go through this situation at a young age so that you can further help either young people or someone older. You'll be able to relay this situation to someone and help them. So just understand that your mom has your best interest, and she's in a position to now she's recorrecting and realizing like, hey, I really put you through something. And she's on a journey to correct that and help you as well. So don't look at your mom as somebody that's attacking you from that angle because she just wants the best for you. And naturally, it's easy. For like when I was 14, 15 years old, I'm like, man, she always wanted me to do this and do that, and always want me to go to church and do that. But I had to realize I got older. I'm like, I'm glad she did that.
Right.
I'm glad that my mother instilled those different values like work ethic. My mother used to make us clean up every single day. You hear how hard I hit this table every single day. I'm talking about like we used to. This is how corny we was. Before my mother came home, we would line up in the row that we was born. My older sister, me, my sister, my brother, and my youngest sister. Line up like we ain't did nothing all day but clean. I mean, we were.
Oh yeah.
We were so. We were so.
Estimating when she's getting home from work.
Yeah, we wanted to
Calculating.
make it work. You know what I'm saying? But what that did for us and all of us is we all have great work ethic. We don't care. We go out and get a job, go work anywhere. We built up the character to go and finish a job, go work a job, go get out there and do for ourselves and be something.
Because it
And
wasn't a tool,
despite
it was the equipment.
exactly. So just understand that the things that your mom have you going through, these processes, they're gonna be difficult as a teenager. But you're gonna realize as you become an adult that wow, that really helped me because now I can do this for my kids and so, and you're going to become a figure for other people. You got to realize that as you become an adult, like we're sitting here talking to you, you're going to be sitting in some seat somewhere talking to some other kids about your experiences and what you went through. It's coming, trust me. So take everything that your mom is saying and that everybody is telling you and just take it all in. You know, again, don't blame yourself. None of this is your fault. You know what I'm saying? We all have gone through stuff that as a kid, we like, well, I don't know. We didn't realize it until we were adults. But you're getting it early. You're experiencing things that people don't normally experience. And that is a true testament that God is putting you through something so that you can help other people later on.
Absolutely.
So just know that.
And your mother did something that's very rare.
Yeah.
She took accountability for her actions.
Absolutely.
A lot of parents don't do that.
Do not blame that on you. It's not your fault. You're just a kid coming into this world. And look where she is. She's sitting here alive, being transparent, talking to us, talking to the world about
Organization and everything.
got an organization and is including you and showing you how it's really supposed to be done. So that's valuable. You know, take that with you. Your mom is commendable. It's commendable.
What are some of the things that your organization has coming up? I saw a few flyers, and it seems like you have something going on all the time, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Because you're keeping it out there, you know, you're not just being lazy, because sometimes we can just get lazy
get
with
stagnant.
with our endeavors. And I love people that are constantly feeding information and pushing and doing things and being
consistent.
Right, being consistent. So what are the things that you have coming up next?
So we are putting together our second In Their Shoes workshop.
Okay.
And that is just something. So now I went to the north side, which was like the Michigan Street or Michigan Road area. So now I'm actually trying to pull that into different zip codes and different locations, so that way people don't have to drive all over the city, but we're actually coming to their neighborhoods where it's walking distance.
Nice.
So we're putting that together for our next location, as well as we do a domestic violence drive every year for the Coburn shelter. And that's just something that's real huge. So we bring our community together and we ask for donations to take back to the Coburn place.
Yeah.
We fill cars up for these past 3 years, 4 years actually. This is the fourth annual, so yeah, the past 3 years. Because of course, when I left February the 2nd, my first drive was June.
Wow.
So he used me instantly. It was like, but
Right.
so
That's crazy that you've been doing all this despite.
despite.
Wow.
Despite.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Again, I tell most people that I didn't truly identify what I was in until, so in 2008, in the midst of my front room, is when I said, when I get out of this, I'll help women. In 2012, sitting on my computer doing my, doing my degree, I was taking an abuse course. And it identified me and my children in that course. The only thing that was missing was our name. So by the time 2014 came, I was already identified what I was in. I had already forgave before I got out. I had already lost, there was no bitterness, there was no anything when I got out, and it was just like, go there, move. So once that June came and I did the first domestic violence drive, and seeing the impact and seeing the need and seeing how many people it really affected, that's when that year later is when I actually turned it into an organization, which was in 2015. But through the midst of that, I can tell y'all that I went through a slingshot effect. And when I say a slingshot, is that I lost everything. I got in a car accident with my car.
Oh, wow.
I lost my job.
Man.
So when I lost a lot. So, and that was his way of pulling me so
Right.
far back to
That's what it
humble
take.
me, to make
Bring
sure
you
that I
down.
was humble for this job. And then when he he just flew me forward.
Right.
And it was real quick.
Yeah.
So that played a big part in it. But our main focus is to get things together and get
Right.
that curriculum together for when schools start back. I plan on having contracts in the schools. I do want to be
Nice.
attached to the schools.
Absolutely.
I do want them to be able to identify it and not just be a one-time thing.
Right.
This is something that needs to be repetitive. This
Right.
is something that needs to get repeated, and then it needs to increase by each grade. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
you're in third, it shouldn't be the same level of information at the fourth and the fifth
Right.
and the sixth.
Right.
So as they grow, again, we just want to redirect those shoes. So
Right.
our domestic violence drive, all the items are at the Dollar Tree or your Family Dollar, so it's not nothing that we're asking you to go to Target for.
Right.
And then the workshop will be coming up, and you can definitely look on our website or social media for that next workshop location.
What's the
Can you
website?
tell- yeah.
The website is www.silentnomorinc.org.
Okay.
And then, of course, the social media is the same, which is Silent No More INC.
Okay.
And then, of course, you can follow me, of course, because I am very positive and not personal on my social media
For sure.
account, which is Danyette Smith, and it's DANYE. T as in Tom, T as in Tom E, last name Smith. We can also be reached by email at silentnomorinc@yahoo.com or by phone at 317-728-6733.
Nice. That's awesome. That's your name
try to
is the
get
first
all
time
that
I've
down.
seen it spelt that way.
Oh.
Danyette. Black people are creative, ain't they? We come with some names. Shout out to my mom. My sisters, boy, they got some names. My sisters Kamika, Renisha, and Unique.
And then you got Ray.
And then you got Ray and Jason. So the boys, we made it out. You know what I'm saying? But I love it though. You know, everybody's unique in their way, and that's and we're creative people. You know, always thinking of different ways. But I love that name, Danyette. Never seen it spelled like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's beautiful. Look, this has been great, and very powerful. Very powerful. Dialogue is necessary. Thank you, Alicia, for coming on here and and rocking with us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's awesome, and I know you're going to be an incredible role model for a lot of people out
She
there.
already is.
Yeah,
You got that
yeah,
going.
incredible. What we want to do is closing remarks where we just kind of just talk to the people, the viewers, and let them know. You've already let them know where we can reach you. We have already got the links and stuff, but let them know what they can do when they're facing situations like this. You know, let them know what actions to take, whether in regards to just being transparent enough to come to get help. You know what I'm saying? So we'll start with that.
Definitely. When it comes to domestic violence, you definitely want to know that it is not your fault, and staying is not your fault. So first being able to identify that it's not your fault, and then being okay to speak to someone, even if that's calling me on the phone. There's no judgment there, but I definitely would get you to those resources that's needed. And then from there, have a plan before you walk away from anything, or even as a friend, before you tell that friend to come and
Right.
stay with you. Definitely make sure there is a plan there, because there is a guaranteed fact that she will go back. And then that only brings tension, which means that eventually you guys will be separated from each other, because she's going to have to pick one of those two. So
Right.
definitely make sure that there is a plan involved. And I always know that if you're in danger and if there are guns involved, leave, because the chances are that you definitely will be killed if a gun is in the home, as well as suicide from your partner. So
Right.
Did I
definitely
read that right? There was 500%?
correct. Yes.
500% chance.
Wow.
You have a greater chance with a gun in the home than you do with just abuse. So it definitely plays a huge part of making sure that there are no weapons involved. And if there are weapons involved, then I would say leave immediately, just because your life and your children's life is in danger right then and there. And there is no time, there is no trigger, there is no bullet point or there is no time for when he decides to pull that trigger.
Yeah.
So definitely just use your voice, and that's
Right.
that main thing, is to be silent no more and to use your voice and know you're not alone out here. There is women out here that are facing that exact same thing. So reach out and get help, even if that means that you can't leave today. You are at that, you just took that first step of being able to leave eventually and to get that plan. But I have resources. Silent No More is a resource bank, so we pull all the resources, or we pull all the information from from other resources, and then we are able to give that out. So even if you don't want to tell your story, just call and tell us what you need, and we will get you that telephone
Awesome.
number, and we'll get you the information that you need to get those needs met for that domestic violence situation.
Tell them that number one more time.
The number is 317-728-6733. We also take text messages as well, so we don't limit that, and we are here for the men as well. So men, if you are out there, please don't be silent. There is someone out there to
Absolutely.
serve you in the community.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. This is nice. Incredible. Ebony,
I'm texting.
Oh,
out,
yeah.
sending out the number.
it's okay.
And it's an outreach number, right? Can I call it?
Alicia.
Yes.
Do you have anything that you want to say to those kids that may be facing things that you have faced? What do you have to say to them?
Don't shut yourself out from your parents, because at the end of the day, no matter if you go to your friends, it's not like they're just gonna be like, oh, okay, and try to take stuff. But if you take it to your parents, they're gonna try to help you, and they're gonna give you more advice than your friends can, because your parents know you better than your friends.
Right.
You've only been around your friends for so long, but you've been around your mother for your whole life
Right. Wow.
since you came out the womb.
Absolutely.
So just don't shut your parents out. Just tell them more and just open up to them instead of going to your friends and running to social media and stuff like that.
That's good. Yeah.
Wow. That's big.
That's real
That,
big.
Alicia, that's big.
Yeah.
What you just did right
Adults
there.
need to know that too.
Wow. That's incredible. Like, for real. Ebony.
I just want to thank you too, Danielle, Alicia. Every time we do shows, I always have a takeaway, or several takeaways, and you've given me a lot of takeaways. And I think one of the most important thing is we don't talk a lot about this subject in our community. So I want to thank you for being transparent, and you're not just talking to us, you're talking to other people that are listening, you're talking to our whole community.
Yep.
And I think that's very brave. I commend your strength, because, a lot of times when we're talking to people, we're actually still broken, and it's hard to really, I guess, for that to translate over, into, and to really help, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I'm articulating
I
it
got
correctly,
you.
but,
Yes.
but your strength actually helps other
Right.
women.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times when we come to other people and we haven't prepared ourselves, they can feel that, So I think that strength is something that's commendable because it tears down that barrier. And I think it lets our community know that, that there is a hereafter. You know what I'm saying? There's an after strength that you can have that you can actually use and help other people and build them up. So, I appreciate that, because a lot of people, they can
Yeah.
sit here and they can tell that story and with tears in their eyes and,
Yeah.
welling up and now, we together and, we in the same, but your strength helps a lot,
Absolutely.
carry that mission over. So I appreciate that.
And an
thank you.
example of somebody who's going through it with you.
Right.
For her to sit here and speak on it and realize, like, hey,
Yeah.
get out there and tell somebody. That's big.
Yes.
That's big.
Yes.
That's huge.
P. Wills.
Wow. Ebony, EB touched on a whole lot of stuff and this happens a lot. But, listen, I want to thank y'all, man, for coming, sharing your story. I love what you are doing, not just with your organization, but, just you as a parent. Taking that accountability is huge because, most parents, they don't do that. It's either their way, they look at it as a one-way street. And you, just keep going. You've already touched so many people. And your mother loves you dearly. I can just tell. For her to just go through all of that and she wants you to just break that cycle. That's powerful. We had a viewer that, Cher Anderson, I hope I as well, and she left the state of Wisconsin. So we want to say to you, we are glad that you got out of that situation, and that you left, And it's true what you said. I mean, she said that was all God that got her out of that situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, man, for coming. And if we can do, anything to help, in any way, let us know.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And then I'll say one thing to that lady. I'm sorry.
You good?
One thing I'll say to all of them is that forgiveness isn't for that person; it's for you. So definitely
Powerful.
make
Big.
sure that forgiveness is part of that being free. So to forgive that individual, not for you to go back and tell that individual, but to forgive them in your heart for yourself. So
Yeah.
definitely, and again, reach out at any given time, and I'll definitely, we can chat, we can talk, we can do whatever it is.
Great. Yeah,
Wow.
because in that forgiveness, a person doesn't want to carry that burden.
Yes.
And then it makes them repeat the cycle and pass it down to their kids, and it just keeps going.
Right.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Big. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. This subject is necessary. The dialogue is necessary. What you guys represent as a mother and daughter being here on the show is huge. There's so many people dealing with that, and until you probably came on here today, some people don't even realize that it's affecting their kids. This is a wake-up call, because that's something I didn't even think about. I'm like, wow, you know what? Kids are affected by that. They have to see it. So, for you to provide a foundation and organization that can assist in helping, understand that and help put preventative measures in place to lessen the risk of that happening is huge. And thank you for being a soldier in the community and just taking it upon yourself to provide a foundation like this, because it is very necessary. Oftentimes in our community, especially with Black folks, we feel so shamed to tell somebody what's going on with us, whether it be mental, whether it be abuse, whether it be domestic violence. We have to get out of that mindset.
Right.
Because there's so much help out here. If you could just tell somebody, you always think about it after somebody's been killed, or if they could just tell somebody, if I just could have said something, or if I only knew. We have to get out of that mindset and do it now. Now is the time for you to get that help. And like Danielle said, have a plan. Don't leave a situation where your job on the line and all these different things. Have a plan. That doesn't mean that you can't keep that job. It just means that have a place to live in place. Be working on these things before you actually make that jump. You know what I'm saying? So that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're hindering your ability to continue growing, or you're gonna get a slingshot. You're gonna get taken all the way back. Right. So you'll prevent a lot of headache if you have a plan. It's great that family can come and grab you up out of that situation, but they ain't gonna let you live with them for a long time. After about 2 or 3 days, they're gonna be tired of you. Like, okay, what you gonna do? They didn't realize that they snatched you up out of that situation. Now they asking you what you gonna do. So you got to make sure that you have a plan for yourself. And for your children, think about that. So that's very important. That was huge.
Absolutely.
So other than that, thanks to our viewers for always tuning in and rocking with us. You guys always share our feeds, and that's I just love it, because you guys don't have to do that. You guys watch it and share with other people, and we reach so many people every week. Lots of these people are in isolated regions of the world, like Cameroon, and Africa, and Nigeria, and Europe, Japan. There's so many people that tune into our shows, and this is the only TV they have. So they're not only learning something, but they're getting good information that they could take and apply to their own lives. So we thank you guys for sharing and rocking with us, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Peace.
Or contractual-based obligations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't do that here. So please, stay tuned in. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook so that you can follow our live feed. And not only that, please add us on Twitter and Instagram at The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you.